B'Shem HaShem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back here on our Tuesday night, but unlike the usual Tuesday nights where we typically have our Jewish intimacy series, is actually something that I was looking forward to getting back to, but because of the huge feedback we've gotten since last week, where we had the shiur and the event, which Baruch HaShem had a good turnout, and a lot of happy people came in, and even happier people left with a lot of new wisdom, and many more people online in regards to the issues of Kedushah. We've gotten a lot more questions, a lot more interesting things that were not asked during that shiur, that there was certainly a lot more information that could help people, that we figured we might as well make another shiur about the topic to address some of the things that we didn't bring in last week's shiur, and also address some of the frequently asked questions that many of you have, such as whether someone is is single and is struggling with it. What are his options? What's her options? Is someone allowed to delay a shidduch because they're not ready to get married? Is someone allowed to go to a prostitute? Is it considered wasting seed if a woman is pregnant and obviously can't get pregnant again, or if a woman is aged out and there's no baby that can come out of it? Is that considered wasting seed? And the common question about tikkun klali. What is actually what does tikkun klali actually do? And even though I've answered pretty much all of these questions in the past in one form or another, whether it was text messages or during shiurim, figured we're going to try to address all of these now, along with some of the things that we've learned from some of the Sfarim that were not mentioned, including the Rabbi Aaron Rata Sefer that we mentioned in last week's shiur, which BeEzrat HaShem will help all of us. So tonight's shiur is going to be for the Refuah Shlema for Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jora, and also for the Atzlacha Rabbah for Avraham ben Yehuda, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahites that continue to learn Torah with us, spread the information, spread the shiurim everywhere, and support our organization by donating on our websites and in different places. Anyone that wants to donate and support could either go to the Tikkun Habrit website, which is tikkunhabrit.live, or you can go to our regular website, beezrathashem.org, but I think that many of you are going to be more interested in the tikkunhabrit.live website after watching these shiurim, simply because it is much more relevant to what we're talking about tonight. But either way, all support is appreciated. So, Baruch Hashem, the issues of morality have never been more relevant than they are now. And Baruch Hashem, for all of the Sfarim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has provided us, all of the Chachamim that have written and discussed this topic. If you look at the amount of Sfarim that are written about this topic and how many Chachamim have discussed it over the years, whether it's in the Zohar or in the Talmud Bavli, Talmud Yerushalmi, in Shulchan Aruch, in Sifrei Chasidut, different Sfarim from Chachamim, or even Poskim, literally you would think that this would be the topic of one out of every two lectures spoken today, regardless of the language. But if you look at the lectures that you have in the world today, especially in the English language, it would seem as if the issues of morality, especially the issues of wasting seed and promiscuity, are not even that important to even speak of, because rarely does anybody speak of it. And that's why I've said it once, and I've said it countless times from the first lecture I gave about this topic nearly 10 years ago to now, that if you look at the amount of shiurim that discussed this particular topic, wasting seed and immorality, in the English language, you simply just type any of the keywords relevant to it, or just simply do a search, or even go to your favorite rabbis or favorite organizations. You'll rarely find anyone else ever discussing it other than us. And it's great that we have the merit to speak about it and help so many people. We certainly appreciate HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chesed with us, but at the same token, we feel bad. We feel bad for all of you that simply do not have other sources to learn this information unless you go and dig deep down into the Sfarim, or you are fortunate enough to find us at some point in your life and realize that this is not only a big topic in Judaism and humanity, but this is literally the foundation of all, as all of us learned together last week. So one of the questions that was asked by one of the tzaddikim that came to the shiur last week, which is relevant to what I just said, if it's so pertinent in the and so important in the Torah, where is it in the Torah? And for anyone that wants the full answer, just go to last week's Tikkun HABRIT, or the Reward for Tikkun HABRIT shiur, and you could see the questions and answer segment and see the full answer. But the gist of it is that the topic of morality, especially the issues of wasting seed and promiscuity, is so fundamental in the Torah that not only is it already hinted to in the first word of the Torah, Bereshit, which is split up into two words of Brit Esh, but it's literally found in every single parashah in the Torah. Every single parashah without exception. Now, you would ask a typical question, where is it in this week's parashah? So just a couple of small examples. As I was learning the parashah, Baruch HaShem, I ran into these old friends and figured I'd share them with you so you could be introduced to them as well. My friends are your friends, and hopefully if you have good friends, they'll be mine as well. So Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us Parashat Bo. Parashat Bo, completes the destruction of the Egyptians. But the destruction of the Egyptians was done through a process, a systematic process that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did in order to sanctify and glorify His name, not only in the eyes of the Egyptians, but needless to say, in the eyes of Am Yisrael. And therefore, the plagues had to come in the way that they did. But in one of the things that we see is that during one of the plagues, before HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought the plague of the Arbe, the locust that ate up everything that was left after nearly everything was destroyed from the hail. The Torah tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu came to Paro, and of course Paro did not listen, and he specifically says to him something very interesting, where he says to him, he doesn't believe him. Why? I see the evil intent is opposite your faces. Ki ra'a neged penechem. So this evil monster Paro that slaughters 150 babies, Jewish babies every morning, and another 150 babies every night, apparently he can see evil in other people. Apparently he doesn't have a mirror in his house. But he says he sees the evil in the faces of Moshe and Aaron. And of course, this, as we've taught in shiurim in the previous years, people that are criminals, people that are wicked, always suspect others of what they themselves are doing. But that's not the chidush here. The chidush here is that the Chachamim bring us in the Midrash that the word ra'ah, ki ra'a neged penechem, could mean evil, I see on your face, but also it could mean the star Ra'ah. There's an evil star. There's a star called Ra'ah. So you can call it the evil star for all of you Star Wars fans. What is this evil star? This evil star, the Midrash tells us, is what the astrologers of Paro told them was now looking to them as if it was red, symbolizing to them that there is going to be blood in the desert, meaning that if the Jews leave, they're all going to be slaughtered. They're all going to die. So why should we let them leave if we're going to end up losing them and they're not going to come back? Now, the truth is that what the astrologers saw was a bit of truth, meaning there was going to be blood, but it wasn't the blood of Am Yisrael being murdered, but rather the blood of the Brit Milah, the Brit Milah that Am Yisrael had to do in order to go and receive the Torah, and also the Brit Milah that Am Yisrael had to do at the end of the 40 years in the desert with Yoshua ben Nun, because that was the first mitzvah that they had to fulfill in order to go into the land of Eretz Yisrael. Everyone had to do a Brit Milah because no one did a Brit Milah during those 40 years. There was a Brit Milah before, there was a Brit Milah after, but there was nothing in between. So already we see the pertinent subject of Brit discussed here, but don't worry, there's even more. But one last thing also is that when you hear later on in the Torah, after the sin of the golden calf, that Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Kadosh Baruch Hu not to kill Am Yisrael because lest the Egyptians be right. What is he talking about? He's specifically talking about this, where the Egyptian astrologers said that Am Yisrael is going to be murdered in the desert. So if you do end up killing them because of the sin of the golden calf, then the astrologers are going to be right. And that's going to be a desecration of your name. So this is exactly what they were talking about. Also, one of the many reasons of why a person needs to always read the Torah with commentary. Another time that we see the issue of the Brit in this parasha, Parashat Bo, is later on when we're almost at the end, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu commands us to take the god of the Egyptians, which is the goat, and tie him to a bed for a few days, and after that, slaughter them. And after we slaughter them, put the blood on the sides of the door where the mezuzah is, and also the mashkof, the top of the door. This obviously later on is why we have the mezuzah, and the Chachamim say in the name of Rav Matya ben Charash that after all of these years that of the Egyptians torturing the Jewish people fell to such a level that literally they had no merit left in order to be redeemed. So they needed this mitzvah. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu specifically says in the Torah in chapter 12, verse number 6, והיה לכם למשמרת עד 14 יום לחודש, ושחטו אותו כל קהל עדת ישראל בין 40, ולקחו מן הדם, ונתנו על שתי המזוזות ועל המשקוף על הבתים אשר יאכלו אותו בהם. He says in verse number 6 and 7, it shall be yours for examination, this is talking about the goat, until the 14th day of this month, the entire congregation of the assembly of Israel shall slaughter it in the afternoon. They shall take some of the blood and place it on the two doorposts and on the lintel of the houses in which they will be built. Meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't just want them to take any particular mitzvah or just, let's say, kill the idol, but rather to make a dam brit, a brit of blood. Now, for those of you who remember, in the Agadah of Pesach, we actually bring the words of the prophet Yecheskel, who says that Am Yisrael was redeemed due to the commandment that were involving blood. The blood of the Korban, but also the blood of the Brit, because everybody had to do a circumcision. And when Moshe Rabbeinu told HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he doesn't think that Am Yisrael is going to do this because they're scared, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I vow on my name, they will never leave Egypt until they do this. Here we see again a couple of examples of the significance of the Brit itself, how the Brit Kodesh brings the salvation, just like the Zohar Kadosh told us, just like Rabbi Aaron Rata mentioned to us in the endless sources that we provided in last week's shiurim. And tonight, BeEzrat Hashem, will bring some more of what we missed last week. First and foremost, when we look at the series that we're doing about Jewish intimacy, one of the things that we notice is that this is for adults. This is not for children. Why is it not for children? And I don't mean adults by age only. I mean people that are adult-minded and people that know how to be adults. Because if a person is still a selfish, self-centered person that only cares about himself, they're not going to ever care enough about intimacy to the extent of turning it into something holy. So even if they're married, even if they're 50 years old, if they're not going to treat their morality as something more than just an animalistic act, none of this is ever going to be relevant to them. None of this is ever going to help them. At the same token, if somebody doesn't care about being single because they simply don't feel the need to tie themselves down, as they say, and they figure that they're okay being alone, this again will not be relevant to them, the issues of Jewish intimacy, because they don't understand the significance of what's called Kedusha. Kedusha is how we pertain to the issues of morality when you treat it the right way, which is holiness. On the other hand, when something is someone is acting promiscuous, the Torah calls them, to a male they call him a Kadesh, and to a female it's called Kedusha. Now that actually sounds the same way. Why? It is the same word, but it's used differently. Meaning, if someone is holy, they call him Kadosh, holy. But if he's promiscuous, Kadesh. Why? Because the Torah doesn't want doesn't use any obscene language. And even when it comes to someone that is doing something the exact opposite of what the Torah says, they are in essence giving him a word that is literally the opposite of what he is. So a promiscuous woman is, aside from being called a zonah, or in other words, she's also called a Kedeshah. So you'll see this also in Parashat Kedoshim and a few other places in the Torah. The Ramban tells us in this segment of the Igeret HaKodesh, which again, we're not going to go into the whole shiur of Igeret HaKodesh, but here he's telling us about how one of the main things that a person needs to do when the act of intimacy begins is consider the other person before they consider themselves. The male has to consider the female, his wife, before he considers himself. In every single aspect, whether it be pleasure or anything else. Now, if a person, again, uses what's called intimacy, and of course other words that are more obscene, if they use that simply just to relieve themselves, then they're not adult enough. They're not mature enough. They're not, let's just say, intellectual enough to even address this topic, because they're simply not different than an animal. And this is not my words. This is the words of Rabbeinu Bachya. Rabbeinu Bachya, 1,000 years ago, brings in the Chovot HaLevavot, in Sha'ar Avodat HaElohim, the fourth gate, which is called serving God. He brings in there a few things, some that answer our questions and some that also address this topic, where he's telling us first and foremost that part of the things that a person needs to know is that there are things that are prohibited, there are things that are obligated, and there are things that are permitted. But just because something is permitted doesn't mean you're supposed to do it as much as you want. So, permitted, that is going to meet your needs, whether it's the preservation of the body, such as food, drink, clothing, shelter, speech, these types of affairs, no problem. These are things that are necessary. If somebody doesn't do them, they're actually making a sin, because they need to do, they need to survive. But on the other token, there are excessiveness. where things are permitted, but people become excessive in them. And where do people usually become excessive in? They become excessive in their indulgence of food, in drink, and in the issues of morality. They also excessively talk, excessively, materialistic. But then he says, he uses some examples from the Torah. We bring Shlomo HaMelech, Chacham Mikol Adam. Shlomo HaMelech, in Mishlei chapter 29, verse 3, he says, he who keeps the company of harlots loses wealth. Or he brings, do not give your strength to women. Also from, this is in essence the seed, when a person is promiscuous. Or from a Torah in Sefer Dvarim, he should not have, he's talking about the king, he should not have many wives. And there are many examples of excessiveness in regards to the issues of morality, where even though you're allowed to be intimate, you're not allowed to be intimate with whoever and whenever. And one of the things that a person doesn't realize is that just because something is difficult and even seems impossible, doesn't mean that that gives you a ticket to do whatever you want. And when somebody does, then the Chovot HaLevavot says, "Ve'yu ha'be'emot mevinot derech takanam yoter mimeno," that a beast will understand its own good better than he does. As the Torah tells us by the prophet Isaiah chapter 1 verse 3, an ox knows its owner and a donkey his master's stall. But Israel does not know, my people does not give thought. In so many words, what Shlomo HaMelech is telling us is that although the morality is a very, very fundamental topic in the Torah, immorality is even more significant because you could take something that's permitted and turn it into something that's forbidden. And needless to say, if you don't have knowledge of the law, or you don't even have a knowledge of the right hashkafa, you could literally start calculating things yourself and start doing things that are completely forbidden. So one of the questions that was asked by somebody was that there's a guy that is struggling, he's single, he's trying to find a zivug, and he can't find it. Not really sure, maybe he lives in the mountains and there's no people there, or perhaps he lives in the middle of the ocean and his next door neighbor is a shark. Not really sure why he can't find a zivug, but apparently he can't find a zivug. This seems to be a common problem today. Nobody can find a zivug. Everyone is looking, but nobody can find. So he figures, since he wants to be holy, since he doesn't want to get a divorce and just marry anybody, he doesn't want to marry the shark, and nobody else is available other than the shark. So he thought, he has a good idea. Maybe I could just get a prostitute. Why not? Wasn't that the way of the world in the past? Yes, the way of the Reshaim in the past. It's also the way of the Reshaim today. And that's why Shlomo HaMelech says, someone that goes with a prostitute will lose all of his money. Meaning it's not only that you are with somebody that you're forbidden to be with. If she's a Jew, then she's nida, so that's isur karet. If she's a non-Jew, then it's isur goya, then it's another karet. And if that's not enough, you're also wasting seed and lost your olam haba. And if that's not enough, now you have an additional curse where you're guaranteed to lose all your money at some point or another. It may not be today. Today you may make $1 million. Tomorrow you may make $2 million. But don't worry. Unless you do teshuvah, you'll end up losing all of it. Why? Because that's what the Torah says. So that logic of I need to relieve myself, don't use it. Why? Because the human logic is not Torah logic. And that's why it's very, very important to bring these shiurim and bring them with a little bit of oomph to give you guys a few goosebumps here and there, because if you don't understand the significance of this stuff, you're simply just not going to do it. I had another young man who was very upset because he thought that saying the Tehillim that Rabbi Nachman Breslev said, the Tikkun HaKlali, was simply going to fix everything. Meaning he's going to sin for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then he says a few Tehillim and gone. But then he heard me say that just doesn't exist. Why? Because the Tikkun HaKlali is there to wake your heart up to desire to do tshuva. To desire to do tshuva. That's what the point of Tikkun HaKlali is. It's not tshuva itself. If you were with a prostitute like the first guy wants to be, or you cheated on your wife with her best friend, or you committed some type of LGBTQ crime, or you did some other heinous crime that is mentioned in Parashat Kedushim, then saying some Tehillim is just simply not going to cut it. It's just simply not enough. Just like if somebody said, listen, I'm going to murder, rape, steal, but then I'm going to say 10 Tehillim, and that's going to solve all my problems because somebody told me that, this is just going to get everything fixed. First of all, Rabbi Nachman Breslev never said it fixes everything. At the best case scenario, this is for someone that's already holy, already protects his Brit, already protects herself. There's no issues, but something happened at night unintentionally while they were sleeping. This is a tikkun for those sparks of Kedusha that left to try to rectify them. That, yes, that's unintentional. But if you were looking at all types of immodesty and immorality all day, then as the Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah says, be careful what you see in the morning, because if not, evil will come to you at night. If you're looking at evil in the morning, then of course, you are the cause of the evil that comes to you at night. And the evil that comes to you at night is wasting seed. So it is your fault. But if you protected your eyes all day, and all night, and all of last week, and all of last month, and all of last year, and you're doing it for a long time, and something ends up happening anyway, then the Tikkun HaKlali is relevant to you. If you're not at that point, then the Tikkun HaKlali can still help you by helping you get your heart to desire to do tshuva. Now, he thought, I'm doomed then. I don't have all the money in the world. I don't have $1 million to fix all of my sins, so I'm doomed. I said, no. Why? Because tshuva and the tikkun are two different things. Doing tshuva is stop the sin. Don't repeat it. Make offense to make sure that you don't go to the places or hang out with the people or talk to the people or look at the things you did that caused you to sin. Say I'm sorry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Pray, tears, cry. Do all of those steps of tshuva. That's the tshuva part. Now, you want to do a tikkun to rectify what was already ruined before you did tshuva? That requires something else. That requires either the fasting, which is not applicable to 99.9% of the population, or requires money. But either way, you still need to do tshuva, even if you have all the money in the world. Even if you have all the money in the world, if you don't do tshuva, that money's not going to help you. Why? You just spent $1 million in doing tikkunim, but then you sinned again the next day. Guess what? You're back in the garbage. Spiritual garbage, per se. So a person needs to understand, just like I mentioned in last week's shiur, the most important part is what you can do now. What can you do now? Tshuva. Everyone can do tshuva now. Why? That's a decision. As far as tikkun, that depends on what you can handle, how much you can afford, what's your budget like, what's your spiritual pocket look like. Meaning, you may have a very big bank account, but your spiritual pocket is very small because you have a big yetzirah for money. Either way, tshuva doesn't require money. Tshuva is simply stopping the sin. So, when a person starts thinking of it as just a money fix, then first of all, you're thinking maybe of Christianity and Catholicism, because for them it's money fixes. In Judaism, it's not a money fix. The fix is tshuva. Tshuva is free. Tshuva is your decision of how you're going to live your life. As far as tikkun, that, again, can be free or it can cost money. Depends which one you want to do. But that you don't have to do. You should do it if you can, but you don't have to do it. It just depends where you want it to hurt. You want it to hurt here for the mistakes of the past, or you want it to hurt over there? Here it's going to hurt because your pocket's going to be a little lighter for a little while. There it's going to hurt because it's going to hurt, not because of your pocket. You're going to hate your pocket and whatever you left in this world, if you have anything left in this world, and you didn't use it for that. Now, the point is that when a person usually looks for a quick fix and they see the so-called bad news that there is no quick fix, then you find out that the real problem is. You know what the real problem is? He didn't even do tshuva. Meaning, he hasn't even stopped wasting seed. And not just this one example, but countless other people just like him have come with the same exact question and the same exact frustration, and that only ends up with the same exact conclusion, which is, do tshuva. Yeah, but that's hard for me. Wait, so you're telling me, you're arguing with me for a half hour about how come the tikkun doesn't do this, but I thought, and I read, and I understood, and someone said, and listen, it just doesn't do it. There is no source in the world that will tell you that reading Tehillim is going to fix all of your sins. It just doesn't exist. I'm sorry. I know this topic. Maybe I don't know a lot in the world, but this I do. And it doesn't exist. There is no such thing as reading Tehillim and it fixes all of your sins, especially something like this. But either way, you can stop the sin. Yeah, but it's hard for me to stop. Wait, so you're telling me you're arguing with me for a half hour and you haven't even stopped sinning? It's like someone is arguing with his wife about, come on, you shouldn't leave me because I really care and I love you. And remember, I bought you a ring and I got you this house and you know, we have kids together. And you know, we met as young kids and everything was great. And remember, we went on vacation and he's talking to her for a half hour trying to convince her to stay. So she finally asks him, okay, you know what? Did you leave her already? You know, the woman that you were cheating on me with? Oh, no, it's really hard for me to leave her. I really like her. What? Are you insane? Wait, for a half hour you're arguing about all these things, but you haven't even done the basics? You know why? This is one of the signs, by the way, and any of you that ever decide one day to give lectures and have the merit to give a lecture about such a topic and deal with this, you'll see this, a very common denominator with people that are, unfortunately, in this situation, they're, you know, before they become tzaddikim. Anyone that does tshuva for tikkun habrit, literally one after another that I've witnessed, every single one of them have become extraordinary people, like much better than the average by a factor of 1,000,000. They become tzaddikim, they become kedoshim, they become amazing. But before they get there, especially in the beginning, they're such difficult people and they can't think straight. They may be able to tell you the exact measurement of a bridge just by looking at a picture. They may be able to, give you all types of mathematical formulas that you cannot even understand the formula. Needless to say, why there's a need for the formula. They may be able to show you all types of intellectual things. But when it comes to the issues of Torah, they cannot think straight, even if they're learning Torah. And needless to say, other matters of morality, they're usually very difficult. They have a very difficult time thinking straight. Why? Because as we learned many times in the past, including last week, one of the things that happens with the wasting seed is that it is something that ruins your mind. It ruins your mind. It ruins both your spiritual mind and your actual mind that you use in the world. You become much weaker, but it's much more effective and damaging when it comes to the spirituality. So a person needs to understand that when it comes down to the issues of the Brit, it's very, very, very important for you to know that stopping is step number one. Stopping is step number one. And the only way that you can get yourself to stop is, number one, decide that this is terrible, this cannot be done, this is simply forbidden. 2, learn about this topic on a regular basis in addition to other Torah that you need to learn to get your neshama stronger. This is in essence defense. And 3, pray to HaShem and apologize for whatever mistakes you've made. And one of the additional things that you can do that is not only a tikkun, but also something that's going to keep you strong is actually helping other people with this topic by giving them the links to these lectures, giving them these wonderful USBs we have of Tikkun HABRIT, the cards that we have to get people to watch the Tikkun HABRIT movie, these types of things that you can get other people to do tshuva. These types of things can actually help you even more than it helps other people. Because even if they don't do it, even if they don't actually watch the film, even if they watch it and they don't stop, whatever they do, you still get the merit that's going to get you to stay strong when it comes to this issue. So these questions, again, came and they continue coming, so at the very least, you guys know some of these answers. Further, there's some other questions. Somebody asked in regards to a zonah. As I told you, going to a zonah is forbidden for multiple reasons. Whether a Jew, Gentile, it's all forbidden. Being with a single woman, meaning you're Jewish and she's Jewish, but you guys are not married. This is also forbidden. And in fact, it's considered in the same category as being with a zonah. Why? The woman, number 1, is not your wife. Number 2, she's nida. And number 3, you're not together for the sake of procreating. It's considered wasting seed. And in so many words, it's a magnification of the sin that a person does by himself, both for the male and the female. So these things are always forbidden. There's no such thing as permission for premarital intimacy. Further, what about if is intimacy in Judaism only for the sake of bringing babies? What about if she can't have a baby, either because she's already aged out, or she simply cannot because medically something happened, or she even did to herself, or she's pregnant. You can't get pregnant twice. So, once you're pregnant, that's it. So what happens with that? Now, anyone that's watched my lectures in the past knows the answer to this, but for those of you that don't, you have to know that the intimacy between a husband and a wife have multiple mitzvot. Bringing a child to the world is only one of them. The other mitzvah that's actually even a bigger obligation than procreating for the sake of bringing babies is actually the mitzvah of ona'ah, meaning the mitzvah, the obligation of the man to be together with his wife when she wants to be with him, as long as she's pure, meaning she's not during her menstrual cycle. So this is a mitzvah that's so big that every time you see a Jewish couple getting married, you see the man signing a ketubah. See a man, there's a ketubah, there's a big contract. Some people have the custom of reading it out loud. Some people don't. But some people write it in, very simple language. Some people write it in very ancient language, different traditions of Bavel, traditions of, the Keilot in Europe. Either way, the ketubah overall says the same thing. 3 obligations on the man in order for him to marry this woman, which in essence is a purchase. The ketubah is a contract where he's in essence purchasing the woman. But in return, he's promising her food and shelter and intimacy, along with, clothing, that whatever she needs. He's not allowed to be stingy with her. He's obviously has to provide her food and shelter, and he has to provide her intimacy. The obligation is on the man, not on the woman. Meaning he is obligated to be with her. She's not obligated to be with him. She should be with him, or else she's considered what's called a isha moredet, where a woman that's not willing to be with her husband, he could divorce her without giving her the ketubah. She's considered a wayward woman. But the point being is that the obligation of intimacy is not for the sake of bringing more children to the world, just for the sake of intimacy itself. So the woman that is pregnant, of course, if they're together, as long as the seed goes where the reproductive organ is, that's a mitzvah. Even though there's no baby that's going to come out of it, it's still a mitzvah from the Torah that he must do. That he must do. When his wife wants, when he has to do it. And one of the gifts that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us during the pregnancy is that the woman doesn't become nida throughout the entire 9 months. So this is, Baruch Hashem, one of the things that some people struggle with, where when their wives are, still trying to get pregnant, or during the times where they're still having kids, and there's the separation every couple of weeks. So here you have a gift. So when a man is together with his wife and there's no baby coming out of it, that's still a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah from the Torah itself. Just like keeping Shabbat is a mitzvah, just like eating kosher is a mitzvah, putting on tefillin is a mitzvah, intimacy is a mitzvah. So much so that the sparks, the neshamot, that of all of the converts that are in the world today and throughout all of history, came from the mitzvah between Avraham and Sarah during those many, many years they were together without actually being able to bring children to the world. That seed that was created during the mitzvah that Avraham and Sarah were together created the neshamot of all of the converts that we have today. So those neshamot are created during that time. They're just not always necessarily turning into children that you're going to have. Sometimes the neshama that you create is going to be something that your best friend is going to have a baby. Your sister is going to have a baby. Somebody else on the other side of the world is going to have a baby that's a tzaddik from your act. But either way, this is something that is a mitzvah that's separate completely from bringing children to the world. And obviously this also pertains to when they no longer can have any children for different reasons, whether it be age or otherwise. It's also a mitzvah, and it's an obligation for the wife and the husband to be together. And therefore, there's no issues of wasting seed. But again, it's so long as the seed goes exactly where it would go had they did try to actually bring a child to the world. Meaning, just because they can't have kids doesn't mean that you can just use the seed for anything else or anywhere else. So that's another common question. Let me see. Another thing that is brought, where what about delaying a zivug? Someone says, listen, I'm not, I don't have this problem. I worked on myself. I can hold myself together, but I'm only, 20 years old, 19 years old, 23 years old, 38 years old, whatever people think is still young today. And I'm not ready to get married yet. Not ready to get married yet. There are some options, but I'm not ready, either because I want to make more money, or because I think of myself as someone that's too young, even though according to the Torah, once you're 12 years old for a woman and 13 years old for a man, you're considered a man and a woman. But as far as getting married, in today's world, and already for generations, usually people would get married, at 18 years old, 19, until we got to this last couple of spiritually retarded generations, where people start getting married, only thinking about marriage once they're already getting close to getting their Social Security check and becoming senior citizens. That's when they can finally settle down, because they need somebody to push them in the wheelchair, at the bit avot. But for the rest of normal people, that, perhaps they're 18, they're 19, they're 20 years old, and they figure, let me wait another year. Let me wait another 2 years. Let me wait another, 5 years when I'm 25 and I have my first million, because they're sure they're going to get the first million. They're not sure, they're sure that their zivug is going to be available too. So let me just wait another few years. Because of age, because of money. Oh, and sometimes they even wait because, listen, I am, a family of 6, and my oldest brother, or sometimes older sister, hasn't gotten married yet. So how could I get married if I'm younger than them? Let them get married first, then I'll get married. I don't want to disrespect them. So what about that? What does the Torah say about that? Arav Ephraim, in his responsa, Ach Tov LiYisrael, in volume number 2, Perek Bit, in Siman Yutet, he specifically addresses this question where a person wants to know if he's allowed to get married before his siblings or her siblings, or does he have to wait? Conclusion is, waiting because your brother hasn't gotten married yet is forbidden and is against the Torah, and the only one that's mentioned to respect, value, and do it in the Torah is Lavan HaArami. Lavan HaArami that fooled Yaakov Avinu by telling him initially that he's going to marry Rachel. But then he gave him Leah. Why he gave him Leah? Because he said, listen, it's not our way over here to give the younger one before the older one. You have the older one. Here's the older one. We can't give you the younger one before the older one. Where is this custom created? In the evil head and brain of Lavan. In the world of Torah, there is no such thing as waiting for anybody. You have a zivug, you have to go for your zivug. Now, what do you say? Well, what if my brother gets offended? Well, guess what? Your brother needs to learn more Torah. Why? Because if he understood the significance of marriage, he would be happy for you. He would be ecstatic for you. He would be celebrating for you, even more than he would celebrate for himself getting married. And guess what? Doing just that can very well be his tikkun to bring his salvation. But maybe you don't believe me, so I'll give you a real life example. From who? From my own very dear Rav Ephraim that he mentions here. Some years ago, a family member that has 5 siblings. So there's 6 sisters, and the 6 kids, they're all frum, they're all religious, everyone's great, and everyone's getting to the point of, to the marriage age, but the older sister still didn't get married. And then nobody got married yet, and all of a sudden, sister number 5, meaning the one before youngest, she finds a nice tzaddik to get married to. Sister number 5, she finds somebody, and she says, I'm going for it. The oldest sister took it so bad, she made a face, she was nasty about it, she wasn't happy about it. On the other hand, sister number 2 or 3, that wasn't exactly the most simple person to find her a shidduch. Let's just say it that way. She wasn't an easy person to find a shidduch. She was a little bit problematic, mentally, and good girl. Everything was good, but she was a little bit of a, difficult person. Not the healthiest person. And but she took it in such a positive way. She started complimenting the little, her younger sister. She started buying her stuff. She went with her to the stores to get her the gown and to set up the wedding and did everything she possibly could to make this the happiest day in the world. Older sister, miserable. Like Tisha B'Av became an everyday thing. And guess what? It's been somewhere around almost 7-8 years since. 7-8 years. Right after sister number 5 got married, within 2 months, the problematic sister that was celebrating with her, that loved her, that it was almost impossible to even think of finding her a shidduch, within 2 months she found a shidduch, Avrech, Tzaddik, Talmid Chacham, and was actually very connected to Rav Kanievsky, to the point where he was able to go visit him on a regular basis, without waiting online. She got married within 2 months. The rest of the sisters got married, except the older one. The miserable is miserable till today. Till today. She's in her 30s now, 32, 33. Hashem Yishmo still hasn't got married. Why? Because a person doesn't understand how a Kadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. And if you start doing the calculations and start thinking, no, maybe I need to, tell Hashem that he should send me my zivug after my sister, because that's what I want. I don't, you don't understand. If you have a zivug, you run with it. You run with it. Why? There are so many mitzvot that you cannot do without your zivug. It's the Gemara says, for a man, it's as if the Torah that you learned before you got married is worthless in comparison to the Torah that you learned after you got married. For a woman, she cannot fulfill her tikkun. She cannot fulfill her tikkun without that zivug. So a person that delays it is making very big problems for themselves. And even more so, we see from here that the sister that celebrated, her reward for what she did, she got not only a husband, not only right away, but she got the biggest tzaddik in the family. Someone amazing. So, whereas the one that was miserable, she failed the tikkun, and she's still failing to this day. So it's important for a person to know that the issues of Kedusha are things that you have to do that are within your control. This also speaks to the people that don't take this seriously and simply become either too picky when it comes to a zivug. He doesn't want to marry a woman that is he is Ashkenazi. He doesn't want to marry a Sephardi. She is Sephardi. She doesn't want to marry, a Yemenite. He is this. They don't want to because she has blue hair, green hair, yellow hair, all these shtuyot that people make such significance of. Most of these things that people cry about, you can change. And the best part about it is that usually people that are picky forgot to look in the mirror. They forgot to look in the mirror. Like they're thinking, no. She needs to be a 10. Habibi, you're not even a 4. You're not even a 4. Like, you forgot to look at yourself. No, I think she's too heavy. Too heavy? You haven't missed a meal since the Great Depression. What are you talking about? But that's the problem. People think that their wife or their husband is supposed to be like some metoav that they saw on TV. All you got to find is someone that you have chemistry with and the same ideology that you could build a holy family with. Everything else you can fix. Everything else you can work on. Everything else usually is not as important as you think it is. Because the truth is, even if, let's say, you only want to marry a little stick, you want to marry a little stick because, you don't want to spend too much on food feeding her. Guess what? If you're fortunate enough and she actually gets pregnant, like you feed her enough so she can get pregnant and last throughout the whole 9 months, guess what? She's no longer a stick. So what are you going to do? Leave her then? That's the problem. People don't think They think like the movies. They think like the commercials. You have to find someone with a healthy ideology of Torah and someone they have chemistry with. If she has a few extra pounds, too little pounds, she has a nose this way, a nose that way, listen, Habibi, you have a few dollars, you can fix it. If it's that important, you fix it. But don't delay your tikkun because of your foolishness. And that's what happens a lot of times, where I've seen, and this is one of the things that makes me hate the whole world of shidduchim. I try to stay away from it as much as possible, but sometimes I have to do whatever I can to people that I consider like my kids, to try to help them if I can. But it's a very, very frustrating process because people are simply so picky and they say no to things that are perfect. Or they say, listen, I'm not sure that, of some other immaterial issue. So remember, if you're delaying the zivug, you're making a mistake. Pretty much 100% of the time. Why? If you're doing it because you feel bad for somebody else that hasn't gotten married, or you're doing it because you think you need more money, or you think it's because of any other reason other than you're supposed to you're on your deathbed or something, there's really never a reason to delay a zivug. Why? Because part of your tikkun in this world is to get married. At the very least, try your best. But it's definitely, there is no mitzvah whatsoever to reject marriage. Especially when you consider the issues of immorality. Because when you are alone, you are bound to sin. Male or female, young or old, you are bound to sin. And many times the people that come and tell me about how they're fed up with their marriage and they want to get a divorce, the only thing they haven't thought about is what divorce looks like. I've never met a happy person that's divorced unless the relationship was a disaster. Meaning, if he was beating her, if he was cheating on her, if she was beating him like we had in one case, and if she was cheating on him, exception of those cases, if it was just simply they disagreed about different things, trust me when I tell you, in more cases than not, divorce is even uglier. It's better you guys figure out a way to fix it. Why? Once you go into the market again, you're going to not only have the problems that you already had still there, because you had kids together, so you still have to see each other and still disagree with each other and still get annoyed at each other. But now you're acquiring somebody else's mistakes, somebody else's problems, somebody else's headaches. And it's a very, very problematic world, and people don't think like that. So when it comes to the issues of morality, trust me when I tell you, your best investment is to get married as soon as you possibly can and spend as much time and effort as you can fulfilling this mitzvah of actually having a healthy marriage. Not just in the issues of intimacy, but everything that comes before it, everything that comes after it. If you do everything before and after, like the Ramban is telling us in that series that we're studying for the last year, for sure the actual act itself was going to be extraordinary. But if you don't do anything, it's going to be a difficult life. You're already giving yourself Gehenom in this world. So, as far as the issues of zivug, like we said, there is never a mitzvah to delay a zivug. It's never a good idea, and many times a person can actually get punished for it. Another question is tikkun without money. We already said. As far as doing a tikkun, first thing is to do teshuvah. The second step is to do the tikkun after you've already started doing the teshuvah. You don't have to complete the teshuvah. You have to just be in the process of doing teshuvah. Doing a tikkun, the best way to do it is when you do it with money, because it's the fastest way to do it. But what can we do that, a lot of people are either living over their means, so they never end up having any money, or they have no bracha, so something always comes up and they never have money, or they simply don't make enough. They don't make enough to be able to do a tikkun. So what can they do? They can still help themselves, in addition to doing teshuvah, by actually, like I said, sharing the information, which is free. You can share the lectures with different people. You could, set up an event in your community where you'll bring a speaker to speak about this topic specifically to help them. You can get some of the material we have and give in your community to different people, in your whether it's in your synagogue or in the kosher markets or wherever there's a bunch of Jews that congregate. You can actually help them in this particular topic without talking about it, without saying a single word about it. Just simply giving people the information. At the very least, you're throwing them a lifeline. And of course, once you do have money, you could also do the tikkunim themselves. But you could certainly do a big part of the tikkun without money, if not all of it. It all depends on your effort. It all depends on your effort. Let's see. Addressed this already. Women. Yes, women are also have the issues of doing the tikkunim. Let me give you guys the idea here. This issue is not something that only pertains to men. This also pertains to women. Why? Number one, women, according to the Ben Ish Chai, Rav Moshe Feinstein, and many other Chachamim, woman is also forbidden from being immoral with herself, needless to say, with another man or another woman. The Rambam writes in his Yad HaChazakah, women are forbidden to being with women because this is considered the evil acts of Egypt. This is actually one of the things that we learned from this week's Parshah, where the Egyptians were crying extra and screaming extra after the death of the firstborn, not because they cared so much about their firstborn son, but rather because they found out that their wives cheated on them with as many kids as they had, meaning almost every one of their sons was a firstborn, but not their firstborn. There was somebody else's. They have an Egyptian table. There's 15 people there. There's the wife, there's the husband, and there's the kids. And then all of a sudden the plague comes, and all of a sudden he sees 7 kids are dead. How could it be? Comes to Moshe Rabbeinu, what's going on? Moshe, he said only firstborn. Moshe Rabbeinu says, yeah, we said firstborn of the mother, not the firstborn of the father. And of course, this Muhammad doesn't understand. The Chamurim, they don't understand. You have to explain to them. That means that your Fatma, she had firstborns with your friend Muhammad and his friend Muhammad and Ahmad and Ahmadinejad and all of them. All 7 are different fathers. So of course, after they found this out, they also helped the plague of the firstborn by also killing their wife for finding after cheating on them. So point being is that the issues of immorality certainly are relevant to all of mankind, needless to say, both males and females in the Jewish world. But the issues of immorality, even with self, is forbidden for women. But there's also other issues. It's not just the issues of wasting seed. There are other things that are in the world of immorality. First is if a woman is intimate before marriage. Okay, whether you are a young or old, if you are intimate before marriage, that means that you are nida. And each time that a woman is intimate with somebody, when she's nida, that is the equivalent of 82 fasts in order to rectify one sin. One sin is 82 fasts. Just to give you an understanding, and this fast is like the fast of Yom Kippur. It's not like the fast where it's from the morning to the afternoon, or a fast of not talking the whole day. No, this fast is a fast like Yom Kippur. 82 of them for every single violation. So if she had a relationship for 6 months, pretty much she has to fast for the rest of her life. And of course, so does he. Now, what if he's not Jewish? It's even worse. 216 fasts. And of course, everything pertains both to the man and the female. But if, let's say, she was with a Jewish girl with Chas v'Shalom with a non-Jewish boy, or a Jewish boy with a non-Jewish girl, what do you have? Each time they were together, it's 216 fasts, just to rectify one sin. 216 fasts. LGBTQ, 233 fasts. adultery, you decided that the Gemara in Masechet Pesachim, and page 25b, that says that it's better for a man or a woman to kill themselves instead of commit adultery, because it's considered one of the 3 cardinal sins. Instead of committing adultery, it's better to jump off a bridge. That's how bad it is. Like if somebody, they actually give an example here. They give an example here, and I know that this is something that people don't understand how significant it is. So where do we learn the details of the judgment of murder? Where do we learn it from? We learn it from the details of the judgment of rape. How is it so? Just like the Torah says that if a man rapes a woman, and you are trying to save her, it's okay to kill the guy in order to save her, because him doing that to her is the equivalent of murder. From there we learn how bad murder is, meaning the rape is considered so horrible in Judaism. It's, according to the Torah, it's considered the equivalent of rape. It's considered the equivalent of murder. Okay, now everyone that's normal except Hamas and their supporters knows that murder is bad. Everyone knows, except those sick people, which unfortunately are a lot more than we thought. Now, murder, bad, right? Rape, horrible, right? Says the Gemara, we learned further from this. What if it's simply an act of immorality, where they tell them, either you commit this rape, or you be with this person, or we'll kill you? What should he do? Torah says, let him die and not commit immorality. Let him die and not commit adultery. Let him die and not commit rape. Let him die and not be with somebody he's forbidden to be with. That's how bad it is. Why? It's in the same caliber as rape, same caliber as murder, which everyone agrees is terrible. It's just that people forgot that adultery and promiscuity is also terrible. Why? Because they don't learn Torah. So now, Rabotai Yekarim, what if there was a guy that didn't know this until he watched this shiur, and he committed an adultery or 2 or 3 or 15 or 500 times? What happens to him? Each time he committed adultery, each act, 325 fasts. Each time. Wasted seed by himself, 84 times. Now, the worst part about this, Rabotai, is that the numbers that I gave you are a little bit inaccurate. They're all correct, but they're a little inaccurate. Why? Because if he was intimate with a nida, or a goya, or LGBTQ, or bestiality, or adultery, they're all also considered wasting seed, meaning it's not only the 216 fasts for intermarriage or 233 for homosexuality, or pretty much the same thing, which, by the way, it's worse. LGBTQ is worse than bestiality, just so you know. 216 for bestiality, 233 for Steve and Steve. So it's not only that sin, but it's also wasting seed. So it's meaning it's 233 plus 84 for each act. So now when a person now sees what the Chachamim have told us, how significant the tikkun is, and this list, by the way, is on the website tikkunhabrit.live, where some of you have done tikkunim there and donated. Some of you just looked at it to read. Whatever you do with it, the list is over there. You can see it. This will save you some of the legwork from finding it in the Zohar, in the works of the Arizal. But point being is that this is a well-known list. You can find it in other places, I'm sure. But point being is that, Rabotai, the person that sees how significant the tikkun is, number one, should realize that if I could fix my sins with money, even if I don't have the money, I should still be happy about it. Why? Because that means it's possible. Because fasting for the next 500 years just to fix my, between the age of 20 and 30 is not going to be possible in this lifetime. So if I can fix it with money, even if I don't have the money right now, still, that's already a chesed from HaShem. It's already a chesed from HaShem. Needless to say, it also shows us how important it is to do tshuva now, instead of wait, instead of delay, instead of doing all types of things that are stupid. Like some people will say, listen, I want to get married, but first I have to focus on my career. Once I get to the executive position, then I'm ready to build a family. You're not understanding what danger you're in. You're simply not understanding. Whether it's you're picky or your priorities are not straight or whatever it is, if you have the ability to start doing the tikkun, which certainly is more practical when you're actually married, then you're crazy if you don't do it. Now, when it comes to another thing that people have asked us about in regards to comparing what we do to other organizations, whether somebody would donate to do tikkun through us, or donate to other organizations that sometimes have campaigns. I can tell you this, not because I'm biased, just simply because, this is where I would put my money. This is pretty much where I put all my resources. This is simply logic. Anyone that does a tikkun or any type of investment that they do has to also look at what happens with that money. What does it do? How is it, an actual tikkun? And of course, just like you look at any investment that you have in the world, whether it's in real estate or in stocks or other forms of investments, a person needs to know where's that money going. Now, for some organizations that raise money for it, they give money to, let's say, Avrechim or to a Kollel, which is great. Now, are you doing a tikkun? Yes. Is it the maximum potential? Not necessarily. Why? Because again, those Avrechim are learning Torah, but that's where your tikkun ends. Your tikkun ends specifically there. Then there's other organizations that they don't actually do anything. Meaning, you're giving them money, you're donating money, but they provide a service for sale. Meaning, they sell you the service. Like, I don't know exactly all the details of everything that they do. I'm not in the companies, but there's a few out there that, say, listen, we're going to share these videos that other rabbis have made for free most of the time, and we're going to provide it to you for a fee. And you could also send us messages, and we're going to charge you a subscription fee for that. And we're also going to connect you with some other subscriber that we have. We're also going to charge you a subscription for that. Now, thank you very much. It's a very nice service, but if you're already getting money from donations, why do you also need the subscription fee? Now, it's okay to make money. There's nothing wrong with making money, but there's nothing wrong with the company per se, but perhaps the donor needs to reconsider is this the best use of my money? If they're already getting money from the actual subscriptions, then where does the tikkun money go? Now, if you compare it to what we do, we have made more lectures about this topic than any other organization on planet Earth in English, and I think in pretty much in Hebrew also. But let's just say for sure I know in English. There's nobody else that has made more lectures, even by any margin. More than 90% of all the lectures about this topic came from our organization. There is no second place. You count everybody else combined, they become second place. So, discussing this topic has always been new information, abundant, on a regular basis, and free. In addition to that, people ask questions, free. In addition to that, something that no one else that I know of on planet Earth does, we also provide material for free, such as these USBs that if you would have simply just bought just a USB, empty, on, I don't know, some website. You take one of these USBs, you want an empty USB, without any material on it. Without the material that took us endless years and nights of sleepless nights to study this material and make the lectures and make the movies and the hundreds of thousands of dollars to make those films. Let's put all of that aside. Empty USB that has, I think, 64 gigabytes. You're still going to pay $30 for it. And if you're buying bulk, I don't know, you pay $15 for it. Now, you're not getting an empty, you're getting it with films, you're getting it with lectures, you're getting it with beautiful marketing, packaging, attractive. In addition to that, you also get a case, which you don't get when you just buy for $15 or $20 or $30. And you even get a picture of me. That's priceless for some people. Point is, all kidding aside, and guess what? This is what we've been giving out for free. We gave out the CDs for free. We gave out the books for free. And we give them out by the tens of thousands. Over 1.6 million CDs, USBs, and cards have been given out over the last several years. So, if you compare doing a tikkun, where somebody's actually taking the money that you're donating and not using it to something that is either limited or something that is unknown, but rather using the money to actually make more material to help your tikkun, to publicize this material, publicize even more material, help more people, the same way you were helped for free. If you ask me, I don't know, I spent about almost 20 years being an investor. I don't think there's any comparison. So when people ask, oh, why don't you work with such and such organization? I don't want to work with them. They don't provide us any benefit. Oh, they could offer you to a new audience. New audience? We, Baruch Hashem, have plenty. They may want our audience. We don't need theirs. Why? Simple. We've become the place that to go to for this particular topic. Certainly, we always want more people to help more people, but we don't need anybody else's help. Not in regards to this. Now, there have been some organizations that have asked me to work with them, and I've rejected the offer. Main reason is they want us to cater to them, meaning censor our videos. Censor our videos means don't tell people death penalty. Don't tell people it's absolutely forbidden, no olam haba, gehenom. Tell them it's not good. Tell them it's inappropriate. Soften it up a bit. I said you already have plenty of other people lying to them. I'm not gonna join for that. Well, can't you just cut that part? No. Why? That's what works. That's what works. In a sefer called Zot Brit, written by Talmid Chacham in Eretz Yisrael, he quotes the Steipler Gaon. The Steipler Gaon, Rav Kanievsky's father, the Steipler Gaon himself says, learning about the punishment and the horrors of the punishment of this particular crime and immorality is absolutely necessary in order for you to not sin. Why? All the love in the world that you have for HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not enough to stop you from the sin. Loving HaShem doesn't stop you from sinning against Him. Being afraid of Him does. Why would you be afraid if we tell you the Torah says it's inappropriate? I had some LGBTQ guy telling me, listen, you're just making stuff up. God loves everybody. Where does it say that this is not allowed? That it's all these bad things you say. So, I provided him a few parashot. I think he fainted once he saw what Torah says about it. Until now, this poor young man thought that, oh, it's just inappropriate. Maybe it's not the way of the world. And we'll still love you anyway. No, Habibi. There's no mitzvah to love you anymore. Once you go that route, that's it. You are considered an enemy of God. You're considered an enemy of God once you go into these pride parades and all that stuff. You're an enemy of God. You do teshuvah, we'll welcome you with open arms. Just don't get too close because we can't trust you yet. But the key is to know that you can't sugarcoat the subject because it's a topic that only fear will get a person to stop. Once a person has become spiritually healthy, has stopped for a while, has sanctified themselves, then you don't need all of the horrors being told to them on a regular basis. Once in a blue is fine. But in the beginning, only thing that works is to know that this is very damaging. To say it nicely. So when other organizations have come to us and have told us that they want to work with us, we've told them no. We're not interested simply because we're not going to change the way the sages taught this subject or the Torah in general. And just because you think that people are incapable of hearing the truth doesn't mean it's true. Why? I see the results. I see, Baruch Hashem, countless people that have done teshuvah by following our shiurim, transformed their lives. When they first started listening, literally, they were so edgy and so like erratic and almost insane that you weren't even sure if you're speaking to a demon or to a person. But few years pass and these people become tzaddikim. Literally, sometimes they tell me about how they pray or how they learn and how much they learn and what they did. And I'm like, wow, I'm jealous of you. You're amazing. Yeah, this is the same guy. This is the same girl that literally just a chalakeh away, 3 years away. You were literally this person that was like a stray dog. Today, you like this Kodesh Kodeshim Sefer Torah. I want to lift you up on Sefer on Shana Rabbah and on Simchat Torah. I want to lift you up. You're so amazing. How? Because they heard what they needed to hear. They did what they needed to do. And Baruch Hashem, they became amazing. All of Am Yisrael can do this. All of Am Yisrael can do this. Needless to say, the non-Jews can also do it. And it also helps them. It also helps them. It also helps them a tremendous amount. Both physically and spiritually. And I have countless people that are not Jewish, that some of them are in the process of converting, some of them just want to convert but haven't figured out a way, some of them simply don't want to convert for different reasons or can't convert for different reasons, but they still want to be as holy as possible. And literally countless of them have done everything that I'm telling you. Have stopped, have sanctified themselves, have done tikkunim, have done donation, have done all types of things. Why? Because they want to be good. And when they are, they see results. Now, last thing I'm going to mention is the few things that Rabbi Aaron Rata mentioned that we did not have time to mention last week. Because somebody asked me, what about money? Is somebody that's Shomer Brit, is he going to get any money out of this? Is he going to get any money out of this? Is he going to become wealthy because of this? First and foremost, you should know, anyone who does not protect his Brit loses all of his bracha. Whatever money he gets, whether it's $10,000 or $10 million, it will never have bracha. Meaning that all the money that he will have will be used for things he doesn't want. And he doesn't want to spend the money on. Things like lawsuits. Things like losses, things like insurance, things that are damaging, like health crisis and things of that nature. So you may make $1 million, but you'll have a miserable life. Why? Because there's no bracha. There's no bracha. I know one guy, I think I keep mentioning him to you guys, or maybe I mentioned him a few times, makes at least $100,000, maybe even $200,000 a month. But he never has any money. And it's not because his expenses are so high that you figured he lives in a castle that could fit 5 castles inside, and he has a new car for every day of the week. No. Simple house, simple car. Out of a couple $100,000, he should be clearing at least half of it, putting it in some investment account. I'd be surprised if he has 10% of it left at the end of the year. Surprised. And I don't think that much. Why? No bracha. So bracha is even more significant than getting a lot of money, because even if you don't have a lot, when you have bracha, it becomes a lot. Whatever you invest in turns into more. Whatever you do is blessed. You don't lose money. The biggest part of investing is not making. The biggest part of investing is not losing. Because even if you make 10 times in a row, one loss wipes it all out. So the guy that never invested and never made has more than you. Why? Because he never lost. Further, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as Rabbi Yaron Rata says, brings blessings on this person to such an extent that not only does his money have blessings, but the blessings for the entire world could actually come through him as one of the vessels, her as one of the vessels, because they have Brit Kodesh, because they have done this tikkun, because they have done Teshuvah. Meaning that not only do they have blessings for whatever they have, but they become the source of blessings for many others, with them at the top. Meaning the person that's Kodesh at the top. So it's a lot more than just getting money. A lot more than just getting wealth. Furthermore, in the Milah 61 and 62, he says, when a person does Teshuvah and does not go back to the lust of the past, passes the tests, then at that moment his spiritual self, he can't see it with the naked eyes, his spiritual self turns into gets a certain garment that the tzaddikim wear, unlike anything physical that we can see with our eyes. And if he continues in this direction, he'll be absolved from chibut hakever. And the shefa elyon, the heavenly sustenance, comes down on him. Each time that he doesn't look, each time that HaShem presents him with a test, and he passes, he can ask for a special blessing. To the extent of even asking for a miracle. Milah 63, he merits to enter Gan Eden Elyon. There are 2 Gan Edens, there are 2 heavens. There's a heaven in this world, there's a heaven in the upper world. Only the greatest tzaddikim ever go to the Gan Eden Elyon. He becomes one of them. She becomes one of them. Why? Brit Kodesh. If they're a righteous person, decent person, they learn Torah, they do mitzvot, they don't violate Shabbat on purpose or anything like that, they can go to heaven. But the heaven here, the heaven that Adam and Chava were in, to go to Gan Eden Elyon, you have to be a tzaddik. He goes there. Someone that's Shomer Brit goes to the Gan Eden Elyon. His neshama gets engraved to the Kisei HaKavod. And when the angels see the same neshama engraved on the Kisei HaKavod as the neshama that's still in this world below, it makes them so happy that they're looking forward to protecting and helping this person in any way that they can. And the reason why they start seeing miracles and things that other people only wish to see. He's then also added another name among the others we've already mentioned, and he's called Kadosh, and becomes one of the few people to enter the special places in heaven for people that are called Kedushim, who sacrifice their lives for the sake of the love of HaShem. Not people that just died because they're Jewish, not people that just died because of some terrorist being crazy, but people that died because they sacrificed their life for the sake of loving HaShem. That's a place in heaven that's designated for those Kedushim. He enters there too, among many other places. The Midrash Rabbah, Parashat Vayikra, chapter 32, verse 5, or section 5, says, due to Yosef protecting the Brit, Am Yisrael protected their Brit in Egypt and merited the Exodus. Otherwise, Am Yisrael would have stayed in Egypt forever. This is why Hashem sent Yosef to Egypt first, to break the klipa of the erva of Mitzrayim, the immorality of Mitzrayim, that was more potent than any other nation in history. And thereby, Yosef empowered all of Am Yisrael to have Brit Kodesh, which is miraculous beyond nature. And therefore, whoever has Brit Kodesh merits to break the same type of klipa as Yosef HaTzadik broke, according to their level of their neshama. And thereby, they sanctify themselves, and they actually sanctify the air in the world to the point where other people will merit to also overcome this obstacle and acquire Brit Kodesh from their strength and their power. And many will end up being saved from this sin because of him. Do you understand what I just said here? Yosef HaTzadik was strategically sent by a Kadosh Baruch Hu as the cure before the ailment. Am Yisrael would have never left Egypt had it not been for Yosef HaTzadik passing that test. Him passing that test gave power, spiritual power, to all of Am Yisrael to pass the test for the next couple of 100 years. Because the klipa had to be broken. By you doing tshuva, by you getting to a point of having Brit Kodesh, you are actually going to not only sanctify yourself, but sanctify the air, to the extent where you're going to have the impact on other people you never even met, you never talked to. They're going to get power from you. Other people will pass the test from you. And guess what? The merit also goes to you. Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking for ways to reward us. When you do this, you literally become the ultimate vessel of reward, because there's no end to the reward that Hashem gives you. You're able to save people's eternity because of your tshuva, without becoming a speaker, without saying a single word, just because of your tshuva and actually becoming a holy person. That in itself helps other people. Just like when Rabbi Yisrael Misalant told his Talmidim that he heard that there was a Mechalel Shabbat in a different country, in France. And he said it's because we're not learning enough here. If we were to learn more here, the Jew in France that never heard of us, that never saw us, would have had the spiritual strength to overcome the sin. With this particular mitzvah of acquiring a Brit Kodesh and not becoming immoral, restraining yourself, sanctifying yourself, you literally become a spiritual superpower. And you become a vessel of all blessings that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to bring to the world. Milah number 67. Even if a person is not a Kohen, now that he has Brit Kodesh, he will merit to bring Korbanot Olah in Shamayim, just like the Kohen HaGadol does with Michael the angel. I know that some of this stuff doesn't mean much to some of you, but a lot of people know what the Kohen Gadol is. Little kids always want to have the costume of Kohen Gadol. Everybody wants to be Kohen Gadol. Guess what? You have Brit Kodesh, you'll be able to be the Kohen Gadol. You don't become a Kohen Gadol, you become like the Kohen Gadol. How? In Shamayim. It's a place where there's a Korban that only the Kohen HaGadol could do. Along with Michael. Michael is Sar Yisrael, he's the top angel. You could do it too. Why? In essence, you fit. You fit the description. Your resume matches. A person could be a Kohen and not be allowed to do it. But you, with Brit Kodesh, you can. The Arizal in Parashat Vayigash says, when he acquires Brit Kodesh, his mind is opened and clarified, and he gets his wisdom opened, especially after he passes a test, as we learned from the Chachmenu Zichronam Livracha and the Reshit Chochmah in Shara Kedusha, section number 17, says that the only way to attain humility is through Tikkun HaBrit. Some people say, yeah, I'm a humble guy. First of all, if you're saying you're a humble guy, you're not humble. Second of all, Chachmenu Zichronam Livracha clarify, humility is connected to Tikkun HaBrit. You cannot be humble without Tikkun HaBrit. Why? The sin itself is rooted from arrogance, where you want what you want when you want it. By default, the sin comes from arrogance. Even if you have no self-esteem, even if you are all types of other things, comes from arrogance. So in order to acquire the ultimate trait of humility, Brit Kodesh is absolute. Absolutely necessity. There is no other way. Also from the writings of the Arizal, who quotes from the writings of Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, says that the one with the Brit Kodesh becomes part of the Merkava for the heavenly Yesod, like Yosef HaTzadik, whereby if there was no Brit Kodesh in the generation, then the world would be destroyed. Number 70, the Agaot of Rabbeinu Elimelech, where he says, one who does Teshuvah for Brit Kodesh, his mind is opened, where he'll remember the Torah that he learned, and he'll be elevated to understand the hidden and the unveiled part of the Torah. Now don't tell me now, listen, I've been keeping it for 2 months, I already understand everything that Rashbi said. Relax. The Torah is much bigger than you even know. But over time, as you toil in your Avodat Hashem, you'll start understanding, seeing, learning, and being gifted secrets of the Torah unavailable to others. Rabbi Chaim Vital says in Sharei Kedusha, the merits to attain a Brit, the merits to attain a broken heart. What's the merits to attain a broken heart? When somebody knows how to really break their heart in their teshuvah, they've reached a very high level of teshuvah. And therefore, Rabbi Chaim Vital says, the merit to attain a broken heart capable of doing complete teshuvah that breaks all of the bad midot. And the good midot spark from his neshama. Meaning that this opens up your neshama's capability to do things that are, in so many words, supernatural. Where you're not going to be able to do teshuvah for all of the bad traits, all of the bad things that are within your character. You can literally become a perfect person. And all of the good comes out. The Zohar, Parashat Trumah, page 128b, says Hashem created different ways for him to help others do tshuva successfully and become mezakeh HaRabim, that his actions cannot be judged in heaven. If you attain Brit Kodesh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you ways, literally will create ways for you to help other people. Why? So now you'll be in a even different category. Not only Brit Kodesh, but also the category of mezakeh HaRabim. What's the significance of mezakeh HaRabim? Somebody that helps other people do tshuva. Mezakeh HaRabim goes up to Shamayim, there's no bedin. What does it mean, no bedin? No one judges him. You help people do tshuva, pass. Yeah, but are you going to tell me the good things I did, the bad things I did? There is no bad. Everything's good. Here, sir, this department, actually, wait, Mr. Kelly, you go anywhere. Do what you want. Enjoy. Olam haba. Anywhere you want to go. Only the Mezakeh HaRabim has this. Brit Kodesh puts himself in that category. Why? HaShem will create a way for you to do it. Now, a person in Milah number 73 says that through tzedakah, one merits to do the Tikkun HaBrit. Like we said, the Tikkunim. And thereby receive the Shefa Elyon of Gan Eden that will enable him to succeed in tzedakah emet. When the da'at, Kedusha, is put upon him to know where to give and when to give. Here we have something that if people understood what it is, this would be enough. Many people donate for different things. Some people donate to foolish causes. Some people donate to good causes. Some people donate to really good causes. And some people donate to things that seem like good causes. But unfortunately, they're not. Why? Either the people behind it are wicked, liars, failures, endless different reasons. Rabbi Aaron Rata says that giving tzedakah is the way that you do these tikkunim. But in this case, there's an extra benefit. Why? Since you already are attaining Brit Kodesh, you're doing the tikkunim with money, now since you put yourself in a certain path, let's just say, you're now able to get something specific from Shamayim that will allow you to succeed in what's called tzedakah emet. What's tzedakah emet? It's tzedakah that's truthful. What does that mean? Where you will know where to give, when to give, how much to give, and actually have your tzedakah go to the right places. For some people, they don't really understand the significance of this. But there are literally billions upon billions of dollars that are donated to endless causes that if the donors only knew what really happened with that money, they would literally never donate again. There was a study made years ago that showed that some of the biggest non-profit organizations that were analyzed in the non-Jewish world in general showed that over 90 cents out of every dollar that's donated to them does not go to the cause. Meaning, you donate $1 million, over 900,000 of it does not go to the cause. In some cases, it was even 98 cents. Sometimes people donate to all types of people that come, and they give him. He says, raising money for some, newlyweds. We're raising money for some sick family. We're raising for surgery. We're raising for... They show you all types of papers. A lot of times they don't tell you that you give them the money, they go back in the car. The guy in the car is not their friend. He's their guy that takes them everywhere, and he takes 40 to 60% of the money. Meaning, you gave him $1,400 to $600 off the bat, gone. Yeah, but I want to donate to the family. You did, just not as much as you thought. And that's already the good news. What's the bad news? Sometimes all of it goes to something that's not the cause. Needless to say, sometimes there's companies. They raise money. We need $1 million in 24 hours to do XYZ. They raise the money. And guess what? Time passes. No XYZ. But everyone forgot. Except the people that got the money. Why? Because they want to do it again. We need $1 million to get ABC. What happened to XYZ? Yeah, it's in a process. Let's focus on ABC right now. Let's be positive. Okay, how much do you need? The amount of money that people waste is unimaginable. We still have to give. We still have to do whatever we can. But here, Rabbi Aaron Rather tells us, you want your money to go to the right place all the time? That means you need a constant miracle. That you're always going to know where to give, how much to give, and when to give. You know how that's possible? BEIT Kodesh. BEIT Kodesh. That's one of the benefits you get. Why? Once you have BEIT Kodesh, you become a vessel. You donate money, and that gives you that extra merit to allow you to become someone that gives tzedakah emet. Number 74. Even though one of the previous ones told us that it's impossible to have pure thoughts without BEIT Kodesh, that means that one also has to have good prayers. Even if he's a simple person. Because Tfilah Tovah is for Malchut and depends on BEIT Kodesh. And therefore, when someone has BEIT Kodesh, they merit having what's called Tfilah Tovah. What's Tfilah Tovah? A good prayer. A prayer where from beginning to end, you're connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And not to your bills, not to the grocery list, not to anything else. You're focused on actually HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and your tefillah actually feels like you're talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and not to yourself. Person that wants to elevate himself even further is now able to. How? Shlomo HaMelech says, Tzadik ochel lesova nafsho. A person that is a tzaddik, he only eats for the sake of satiating his body, only to to whatever he needs, not like a glutton. And when someone has the BEIT Kodesh, he's called a tzaddik, and therefore he's now capable. He's made himself capable of sanctifying himself further by the permissible food, and only eat to be satiated. He also merits to attain emunah shlema. That's only possible with BEIT Kodesh. Imagine living a life where you have complete emunah in HaShem from the minute you wake up until you go to sleep every single day, through the difficult times, through the good times, through war, through COVID, through vaccines, through new governments, through terrorism, through financial crisis, through health crisis. You're always glued to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Imagine that. You don't have to imagine it. You can live it, having BEIT Kodesh. Number 77. Although the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says that if he doesn't have Yirat Shamayim, then he doesn't merit to get to enter. There's much to expand on this, But what shall I write, says Rabbi Aaron Rata, in a generation that is missing those who desire to even request having Yirat Shamayim? Regardless of that, know that having Brit Kodesh is given. One who has Brit Kodesh is given Yirat Shamayim in his heart, which will enable him to have the Yechud of Yirah. To do the Yechud of Yirah. It's a certain Yechud, Kabbalistic act. And while nothing leads a person to waste seed more than sadness, one who does Teshuvah and attains Brit Kodesh is given simcha in HaShem, in Torah, in Tefillah, and in fulfilling mitzvot, which elevates those mitzvot from simcha to the highest level, to the point where the Shekhinah kisses each one of his words. The Arizal said that the way that he got to his elevated status is by doing all of his servitude of HaKadosh Baruch Hu with simcha, with happiness. Now, being a sad person leads a person to make sins constantly, especially with the issues of immorality, because that's one of the things the Yetzer Hara says to him. Okay, everything else is terrible, at least make yourself happy here for this moment. Both for males and females. Here, Rabbi Aaron Rata tells us, when somebody has sanctified himself to not waste seed, to not be an immoral person, to not be promiscuous, they have now opened up the gates of heaven that will shower happiness on him in every single aspect of his servitude of Hashem, of his belief in Hashem, in his Torah learning, in his prayer, in his fulfilling mitzvot. He's going to be fulfilling mitzvot like he's collecting diamonds. And that happiness when he's doing mitzvot elevates the mitzvot even further to the point where the Shekhinah will be kissing his words. I don't know what that looks like yet, as far as the Shekhinah kissing the words, but I want it. And any normal person would want it too. Last couple. One who has Brit Kodesh is granted the highest level of Hashgacha Pratit in the world. If this was it, just this, it would be enough. Dayenu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu watches him to the extent where literally there's divine providence in his life to the highest possible level when he has Brit Kodesh. I can't tell you how amazing it is to see miracles, things work out, because everybody has their own perception of what is and what isn't, and what they want and what they don't want. But one of the things that every single person could appreciate is you praying for something and it happens. But even more so, you thinking of something. Like, like the things like, oh, I wish such and such happened, or I wish I had such and such. Just thought. And within a very short period of time, sometimes even moments, this very far-fetched wishful thought you had actually comes to existence. Shows up at your door. You have that? Once? Twice? How about on a regular basis? That's what Rabbi Aaron Rata is telling us here. Last but not least, someone with Brit Kodesh is considered a tzaddik, who will be considered together with the prophets the holiest and the highest neshamot. Now, everyone knows that Moshe Rabbeinu is the prophet of all prophets. But we also have other prophets. We have our forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We have Yeshua ben Nun. We have Shmuel and Navi. We have literally the most extraordinary people that ever lived in our holy Torah. Jeremiah, Isaiah, Yechezkel, Zechariah, all of these amazing people. And guess what? You go to the place in Gan Eden with them. You go anywhere else you want to, but you're also allowed to enter there. You want to hang out with Moshe Rabbeinu? Enjoy. Want to hang out with what? Jeremiah? Have a good time. I'll tell you what happened during the Korban. I'll tell you all types of things. I'll tell you the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? That's where the highest level of neshamot are. Someone with Brit Kodesh is considered like one of them. This, Rabotai, is the ultimate gift of all gifts that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. And like I said, there are endless blessings that you can get for following the Torah, for sanctifying yourself. But it benefits all of mankind, not just males, not just females, not just Jews, and not just Gentiles. It benefits all of mankind. In a world that's becoming more immoral by the day, it's time we all became better. Regardless of where you stand. Even if you're already on the right path, there's room for improvement. If you're on the wrong path, needless to say. But the one very simple advice that I've given that works like a charm for every single person that has done it is, number one, already understand that this is good for you to rid yourself of this addiction, rid yourself of this disgusting trait and just behavior that the world has of animals, where promiscuity has become the norm. Number two, educate yourself. We have a couple of 100 different lectures, films about this topic. We have a whole playlist on the channel, on our website, all for free. Watch all of them on a regular basis. Constantly remind yourself of the good and the bad. The good part of getting yourself out of this situation and the bad part of falling for it. Look at the world of promiscuity. Look at the world that lacks sanctity and morality. No one has a good life. No one's happy. No one has achieved anything worth achieving. Because even if they have money, you rather give away all the money instead of have the problems they have with the money they have. They may have money, but they also have 5 marriages. They have money, but maybe all their kids are drug addicts. They have money, but they're addicted to all types of pills. They're sick. They die early. They have miserable lives, and needless to say, eternities. But we have here a proven instructions from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to literally become holy people. As HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in Parashat Kedoshim, Kedoshim to you ki kadosh ani. You be holy because I am holy. How? With the issues of morality. This means being modest, both in dress as well as speech, behavior. This also means how you treat yourself. So first, like I said, stopping the sin by educating yourself of how bad the sin is for both humanity and for you. Both for your body and for your soul. Second thing is, don't think that one time you know everything and you're finished. This is continuing education, just like anything else that's worth it in life. Everything requires continuing education. Everything requires constant learning, constant repetition. There's always more to learn. I've been learning this topic for many, many years, and I can tell you, there's always new information. There's no end to the amount of information that Torah has about it. You have to make sure that the sources that you have are legitimate Torah sources, not just some guru that claims that he's solved the cure for life because his idea is to retain the sperm. It's not just about retaining. It's about knowing why, knowing the purpose. It's not just to empower your body or your mind. It's to empower your neshama. It's to do it because God said so, not because somebody gave you a good idea. Third, you have to know that the ways of the world are always going to steer you in the opposite direction. So naturally, the ways of the world is to make you overly comfortable with yourself and eventually with other people. This is the opposite of what Torah says. Not only should you not be overly comfortable with other people, free with yourself, free with your body, free with everything. That's all the opposite of what Torah says. But also even with yourself. Even when it's not wasting seed. Even when it's simply looking at yourself. People spend a lot of time looking at themselves. And they don't realize this in itself brings you to sin. The more comfortable you are with your body, the more you are comfortable to touch it. The more comfortable you are to touch it, sin becomes standard. This is why it's best to not look at yourself. Unless there's absolute necessity. But usually, that area of the body, you never really have a reason to ever look at. That's the way of the tzaddikim. One of the Gedolei Ador showed up to a doctor one time because he had pain in the lower part of the body. When a doctor checked, he was amazed that, how did you not come sooner? He says, oh, I was able to handle it. He goes, yeah, but didn't you realize the problem? He said, no. How could you not realize? I never looked. Even now I don't look. I just know it hurts. And it's more than I was able to handle. He hasn't looked below his belt throughout his entire life. Like Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And the story, by the way, I just said was about Rav Ovadia Yosef, alav shalom. But it wasn't just him. This is the way of the tzaddikim. There's no reason to look. It's still there, don't worry. And if it's not, you'll feel it. Same concept with women. Women spend an extraordinary amount of time. And I'm telling you, if it's just to groom yourself, it's one thing. You have to fix your hair, fix your makeup. But that doesn't mean that you have to walk around like you were just born. Why? It's unhealthy for you. It's unhealthy for you. This is what makes people so comfortable to the point they walk like this outside. With some sad excuse for clothing. That we're only one generation away from even that going away for some people. So a person has to know that in order to sanctify themselves, they also have to sanctify their behavior. Out of sight, out of mind. Last but not least, especially for guys that are not married, do everything you possibly can not to have skin-to-skin touch with yourself. Meaning, even when you have to relieve yourself, do it sitting, and if there has to be a reason for you to move anything, have some type of toilet paper or tissue on your hand. Why? Even that little bit of sensation could bring you to sin. I've given this advice to countless young people that had an impossible time overcoming the sin, and it's worked perfectly for those that did it. Why? This is what our Chachamim have told us. Some people need extra help. Some people need less help. They're able to overcome it quickly. Either way, everybody needs something. So when it comes to the issues of Brit Kodesh, if I told you, listen, every time now you have to change the way you go to the bathroom, you have to change the way you dress, you have to change different things, it's like, come on, it's too much. But once you hear the reward, no one says it's too much. You want more. But after you hear this, there is no more. You pretty much get everything. And therefore, you realize it's worth it. If it wasn't worth it for your own sake of health, both mentally, physically, and it wasn't worth it to avoid punishment in this world and the next world, the only last resort is that it's worth it for the endless rewards that you end up getting for it, both in this world and the next. And if even after that you can't help yourself, then when you go up to Shamayim, right before you go to Gehenom forever, they'll put a stamp on you called Satum. Someone that is impenetrable, cannot be helped. But I hope that stamp is never used. Because every single one of you, if you've watched long enough to get to this point, then you know that the message is clear. You can do it. With that being said, I'll try to take a couple of questions. BeEzrat HaShem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give me the strength. The website to do the tikkunim is tikkunhabrit.live. That's tikkunhabrit.live. Or you could go to tikkunhabrit.org and then press the donate button over there and it'll take you to tikkunhabrit.live. To everyone. To order the USBs or the cards for free, you can go to kiruvstore.org. KIRUVSTORE.org. I'm only going to answer questions that have to do with the subject. I'm not going to answer anything else. I just don't have the energy. Okay, that's pretty much it. Okay, guys, thank you very much for learning with me. Kadosh Baruch Hu bless each and every single one of you. BeEzrat HaShem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the strength to continue learning together, continue sanctifying Kadosh Baruch Hu's name. BeEzrat HaShem, all of us to do Teshuvah for Brit Kodesh, to sanctify His name, to bring the MaShiach, BeEzrat HaShem, which, as the Torah tells us, actually in this week's Parshah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not going to bring the salvation until Am Yisrael did their own tikkun habrit, doing the circumcision, and made sure that they did not sin, meaning that the salvation does not come until Am Yisrael does tikkun habrit. And this, Rabotai, is very, very much possible. It's within our reach. It's within our abilities if we simply want it enough. It's simply something that it's within our ability to do it. And BeEzrat HaShem, we all succeed in doing it. Call to B'cha V'Atzlacha.
אני מברך את הרבנים, הרב ירון ראובן, הרב אפרים כחלון, ראשי ארגון בעזרת השם, שהלכו בפי עליון, שעלו מעלה, יהיה להם ברכה והצלחה. הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא בישועות ליבם לטובה ולברכה, שבכל מה שיפנו ישכילו ויצליחו, יזכו לעשות כאלה וכאלה, הודיעו תורה לאדירה, אמן ואמן.